Let us get the music stopped. Alright. Welcome, everyone, to the stream. Hello. There's a glorious Tuesday. And welcome to our Tabletop Tuesday. Quick announcements. Once again, our sponsor for the foreseeable future, Shockby Gaming Servers. Link is down below. Servers start at $2.50 USD a month, and they go up from there. So there is that. Also, if you need Rayla, welcome. Hi, welcome to the tavern. Hi there. I gotta remember to look that way, not that way. That way. Hi. Still gotta get used to where my camera is located. Hi, I'm new here. Nice to meet you. It's always nice to meet new members into the tavern. Hey, we always welcome new patrons and guests into our tavern. We also have artists that we're always trying to assist. We got two currently. One is called Broken Looney. She's currently dealing with DCMA bullshit. So, fun times there. So, we tried to help her out where we can. Some of her art got taken down for that. You like my hair? Yeah, it's nice and chaotic and fuzzy and stuff. So there is that. I do appreciate the compliment, though. I'm trying to get better at taking compliments. But Broken Looney's dealing with some DCMA BS, so we're trying to help her out. So there's going to be a link coming here shortly.
Welcome, traveler.
Ah, yes, welcome. Where the heck did my mug go? Oh, there it is. There you are. Welcome, Rayla, to the tavern. Grab yourself a mug of ale, pull up a chair, and enjoy the tales we tell here. The other artist we're trying to help is named Yamak Arts. He's trying to get the money to pay for his art. I forgot what movie that was from. The mug? This is something I got from Twisted Taverns. It's something I kickstarted. It's a beautiful thing. I love it. I try to drink from it whenever I have drinks. Oh! The notification. I have no clue. I got it from online, and it was a copyright-free thing. So, yeah. Looks really nice, the mug. Oh, yeah. Beautiful thing. Came with the Kickstarter. Twisted Taverns. I highly recommend it if you're into D&D. You get 17 taverns that they pre-built, and they all have their little quests built into them. They all have NPCs, all that fun stuff. These are the two artists, by the way, to help out. So there's that. Excuse me while I'm trying to deal with allergies. Oy. But as per our Tabletop Tuesday tradition, we have our companion today.
Hello, hello.
Yep. That would be CandidGamera, our co-host in this. He has more experience with, I'd say, a wider array of games.
Yeah, I've done a number of genres, a number of systems.
Yeah. I would say I probably have more experience with the online environment. I'd say, out of the two of us.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I'd say I'd probably have more experience with the online environment. And with certain systems. Also, I think I might have more experience in the LARP environment.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Because I've done medieval LARP, I've done World of Darkness LARP, I've done post-apocalyptic LARP. And I gotta say, dude, you would have a blast with that.
I don't know. LARP just... there's a veneer of separation between the player and character that I really like to maintain.
Okay, that's fair. The post-apocalyptic LARP I played, though, was on a college campus. It was a one-time thing. It was part of, like, a... I wouldn't call it a convention, but it was something similar. I don't know the word I would use for it. If you get my gist.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like a full-on convention, but it was like groups of people got together and did stuff together, and various gaming stuff. And they did a one-time post-apocalyptic RPG. They kind of did it Fallout-ish. And they gave everybody Nerf guns.
Okay.
And it kind of was interesting. What game are we really into? For me, I'm a big fan of Pathfinder. I am into D&D. What else do I have on my wonderful machine? Because I keep PDF copies of all the books that I'm really into the systems of. Um, I'll let
Oh,
Candid.
absolutely.
I was gonna say I'll let CandidGamera answer that while I'm loading up my books.
I would say that my favorite sword and sorcery type game, at least high magic wise, would be Pathfinder. It's my favorite variation of the D&D formula. I would say that I'm also a big fan of some point buy type systems. I really like Savage Worlds as a generic game. Mutants and Masterminds is a favorite superhero game.
Oh, that one's fun.
Um,
I haven't
oh
played it,
yeah,
but I haven't played it personally, but I've watched it played at conventions, and it looks like it's a blast.
I'm thinking that I might actually, for Free RPG Day, do a thing at Four Horsemen and basically do some little Mutants and Mastermind demo type stuff. Because they asked me what I was running and if I'd like to demo something, and I thought about it, and I was like, I could do something with Mutants and Masterminds, because honestly, I'm going to want to do something really quick. And my idea is basically just doing a supervillain dunk tank, for lack of a
Oof.
better expression. It's like I'm gonna put Darkseid on the table. You pick your favorite Justice Leaguer. We'll put together a team of 4 and see if you guys can take down Darkseid.
All right, so Rayla, two things. Four Horsemen's our local gaming shop, so that's to give you an idea. And there is a game called Pathfinder. It makes you think of Apex Legends. Not quite. Pathfinder is an advanced version of Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 edition. A bunch of guys broke off of Dungeons and Dragons and took cues from 3.5 edition and just made it better in a lot of ways. And they made tweaks. Now, they did have some errors and some flaws, which is to be expected. I mean, no system is perfect. Let's be brutally honest, okay? Why am I shrinking the wrong things? God dang, I wish I could just type today would be nice, but my brain is not working correctly. But Pathfinder, I feel, is like a really well-rounded 3.5 edition, in my opinion. For me, I like Pathfinder. Like I said, D&D is another one. 5th edition's pretty good. 3.5's all right. For superheroes, I haven't tried Mutants Masterminds yet, but I have played Aberrant, which is kind of a weird superhero one. Though
Yes.
heavy into power balancing issues.
Yes.
I've played Battletech, the RPG. And boy, was that fun. They put me into the cockpit of a... it's been called both a summoner, but it's also been called a Thor.
Okay, yeah.
It has multiple names depending on if you're Inner Sphere or a Clanner. I was an Inner Sphere guy, so I believed I called it a Thor.
Okay.
But I'm a shooter game lover. If you're a shooter game lover, Battletech is actually not that far off. Because you're in a giant, huge robot that is brimming with guns. And your whole purpose as a character is to shoot the other guy. A lot. Think of it as like a bigger, meaner version of Titanfall.
Okay, yeah. I can see that.
Yeah. But my Thor had an AC 20, and I was sitting up on a hill, and the guy was charging me with a big hatchet in his hand. His mech had a big hatchet, and I was sitting there going, if he gets into melee range with me, I'm kind of screwed. And so I aimed my AC 20 at him, and was like, I only have one shot at this. If I don't take off his arm, I'm gonna die. I rolled the dice, rolled a critical hit, and in Battletech, when you roll a critical hit, it's like you just blow off a part.
Nice.
And I rolled double sixes, because you rolled 6-sided dice to decide where you hit. Double sixes is you shoot them in the head.
Nice.
I insta-killed his pilot. I was like, Jesus! I essentially shot his head off with a 105 millimeter cannon.
Yeah.
I was like,
that's amazing.
I was like, well, fuck. The dice were in my favor that day. Another game I'm a big fan of is there's the Star Trek Adventures books. I want to give that a try one day. And another one is someone wrote a Dune RPG. And it looks fun. Like, it's not solely combat. Like, there's so many rules for social combat and, like, mental combat and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, this could be fun.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to give this a try. And then for my weird system, it's a tie between, I want to try Mechton Zeta one day, which is more giant robot fighting.
Yes.
And the other one is Scion. I played Scion and it's fun. But Mechton Zeta, I still have my character I want to play one day where he doesn't pilot himself. He's like in the back seat. And he's just keeping the damn thing running.
Okay.
And let someone else be the pilot. Just hitting this console going, work, you piece of shit, I want to live.
Yeah, I had no idea you had an interest in Mechton Zeta. That's one of my favorite older ones.
Yeah, Dalton wanted to run that at one point, and we were debating that, and he had a character idea, Angelica had a character idea, and then a few other people, and oh boy. And the funny thing was, Dalton and Ann's character were both gonna like argue over who got the co-pilot, which is gonna be kind of entertaining. If I could spell melee, would be nice. Jesus. Defender. Offensive magic. Skill. Range. And I need one more row. Excuse me. And that is support. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about today, which I need to get display up. Oh, God, wrong window. Can we get the other window, please? Thank you. Oh, God. All right. Oh, that was horrifying. We had screenception there for a bit. And that would have been bad. So I found this website called the Tier List.
Oh, yes.
Except we're not going to be putting them into tiers. Because that's kind of dumb. Okay?
Okay.
We're going to help people with D&D and Pathfinder by classifying each class under what role, if I could type today, they fall into. General role, mind you, like big overarching role.
Okay.
Like, kind of like, are they a melee user? Are they range? Are they offensive magic, defensive like support, stuff like that?
Okay.
For each class. Now, some classes do fit multiple roles.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it'll let me copy and paste them into multiple things. So
that's a good question.
We're gonna try and hopefully not fail at this. All right.
You could do a test one.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do with Barbarian, because we're gonna talk about 5th edition stuff.
Okay.
All right. So Rayla, part of this is what we're doing is we're educating new people into Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder about the game.
Welcome, traveler.
Welcome, desolate Chloe, to the tavern. Grab yourself a mug of ale, pull up a chair, and enjoy the tales we tell here. Village love. Yes, we love the people from the village.
NANI?!
Hey, there's no problem with lurking. We actually have a lurk command, ! Lurk. If you want to use that, that is A-okay. And we have people using the sounds. Yay, they work. I'll take it. There's also free sounds down below. There's like a big soundboard that's free. All right. So with that being said, let us talk about some of the classes we have here. All right. And looks like we're gonna be doing this in alphabetical orders. Yeah, Leroy Jenkins. No one fits that attitude in D&D more than the Barbarian.
Yeah. Sometimes to the frustration of the rest of the party.
And the DM.
Yeah. I don't know. As a DM, I'm usually, even if it's going to screw over the party, I'm usually at least amused when somebody rushes ahead.
Hey, Mizzy Bear. Welcome to our stream. We're educating people on some Dungeons and Dragons. Oh yeah, no, the Barbarian can sometimes be the most entertaining character in the party or the most want to bang your head on the fucking table character. Hands down. We will all, I think we'll both agree Barbarian is hands down. Can I copy this? No. Uh-oh. Can I copy? No. Will you let me copy? I wish there was a way we can add more down here.
Is it just limiting you to a certain number of things to put in a tier? Or
Yeah, that's weird. Right, click save, download, share your tier list. I wish there was more we could do because these guys fit more than just one category. Most
we can talk about the categories and decide which one they fit best.
Yeah, we'll say which one they fit best. All right, so Barbarian.
I mean, Barbarian, obviously, I would go into melee.
They are definitely melee and defender. Those are the two biggies.
They can tank for the party.
You can argue skill, depending on the type of game you're running.
Sure.
But not in 5th Ed, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, there are, subclasses and things to flavor your Barbarian, but ultimately it's about hitting the bad guy with a big thing and making the bad guy bleed.
Yeah, or taking a hit from the bad guy.
It's true. I mean, melee combatants are often going to also be a defender because they're the ones that stand in front of everybody else.
Yes and no, and we'll get into that with one class in particular.
Sure.
Because there's one melee class that cannot defend to save their damn lives in 5th Ed.
Okay.
And that is my argument.
Okay.
All right, but we can discuss that. But with Barbarian, I will say let's put them in melee.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is more often than not where they fall. They are the big fuck off acts of, die.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to hurt, and it's going to hurt a lot. Bard. Bards are literally every single role on this chart.
Yes. Bards can do everything.
Yeah. If you cannot make up your mind, by the way, if you cannot make up your mind about what you want to do, play Bard.
I would say that they are best at the skill and support roles.
I would agree with that. In 5th Ed, I would say they fit more support than skill.
I mean, a College of Lore Bard can be your most skilled party member.
True, but most of their subclasses are built towards support.
That's fair. I mean, you do have is the College of Blades that's more the melee guy, but yeah.
It's the thing I argue is every single one of their classes does support.
Oh yes,
in some way. Not every one of their subclasses can do the others.
I'm playing the College of Lore Bard right now, and I very much do the support thing. Bardic Inspiration is fantastic. I've got Healing Word for some clutch heals here and there. Yeah, I am our party's secondary healer.
Yeah. So I would say in 5th Ed, they are support.
That's fair.
That's fair. Cleric.
I mean, the classic cleric is your support class.
Right.
But the cleric, again, depending on what game you're playing, can be very versatile.
The only thing it can't really do in this list really well is skill.
That's yes. Skill would be its weakest.
Yeah, at least in fifth ed.
Yes.
And it also doesn't get anything in particular that's ranged. That's really stellar.
No, it's not going to be doing like any kind of ranged weapon. Now you can have a very nice ranged spells, but that falls under like offensive spells and or support.
Yeah. So honestly, I still feel like cleric is primarily support because most of their subclasses still lean towards that, but some of their subclasses are really good at the others.
Yeah, in the game that I'm in, we've got a fire cleric or sun cleric basically, and she can cast fireball, which is amazing.
Yeah,
It's
that's offensive magic right there. It's hi, I have the sun. Fuck you, die.
yeah, it is literally just the best offensive spell at our level.
And then you got some clerics who are straight up excellent defenders, and some are really good at melee. I mean, it's kind of kooky, but yeah, support I feel is their main shtick. Then we have Druid.
Druid's another very versatile one that's kind of hard to pigeonhole, just because so many abilities.
Right. The thing is, when you look at their subclasses and which three were built the best, like for power scaling, you got Circle of. I'm trying to remember what number 3 was. I remember the top 2. I can't remember the third off the top of my head. But I remember the third one was an offensive magic caster.
Okay.
I think it was land. Like Circle of the Land Druid.
Okay.
Number 2 is Shepherd, which
Right
is
on.
a support class. Because you are summoning ridiculous amounts of little dudes, and they are absorbing huge amounts of punishment for your party. And you summon little totems that give your parties buffs.
Nice.
Like there's the bear totem, which heals them for a short little bit, like temporary HP. And it gives everybody in range advantage on their strength checks. Which is kind of
nice. Cool. Yeah.
There's the unicorn totem. I think that one is like straight up like you. Anytime you heal someone, you
Welcome,
get
traveler.
that healing as well. Welcome, the Cornbread 5, to the tavern. Grab yourself a mug of ale, pull up a chair, and enjoy the tales we tell here. What's up? We are educating people on Dungeons & Dragons classes today. That is what's up. Because Tabletop Tuesday is all about the education of D&D and Pathfinder and other fun tabletop games. But the number one class that falls into Druid and hands down, and this one is just still right now so overpoweredly broken in 5th ed, is Moon Druid.
You're a werewolf, let's just be honest.
You become a straight up werewolf.
Yeah.
Or werebear, or were-tiger, or whatever were creature you want to be, and you're gonna fuck shit up. And whatever wild...
I heard furry fantasy, you get to live that.
And what makes it even worse is how they do wild shape in 5th ed. Like, have you ever read on that?
Yes. Actually, I had someone play a druid in the 5th ed game that I ran briefly with the extra pool of hit points.
Yeah, imagine that on a melee character. That is hella broken.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you go, oh, hey, I got shifted back because I ran out of HP. Hey, my next standard turn, I'm back to another full pull. Because you can shift again. Depending on what level you are, if you're high enough level.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've got spells that can do the same thing. So, I'm going to say Druid is either melee or defender. I'm going to say melee because they don't have a high defense. They're usually straight up damage. Unless you want to count high amounts of HP as defense.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing where maybe 5th edition Pathfinder will part ways a little bit. I think in Pathfinder, honestly, Druid is one of your better offensive casters.
Right.
So yeah, that's a little difference between the two, but yeah.
I would agree with that. Fighter.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking Druid. I might actually lean towards Defender because even the subclasses that aren't the big beefy melee boy, like you can summon hordes of animals to take hits and help your allies.
That's true. That's the summoner. Yeah.
Yeah.
Circle of Shepherd. Okay, we'll put in Defender. That's a better choice, honestly, because you're all about HP tanking, not AC or save tanking. You're summoning things to just take hits constantly. Whether it's you or creatures you summon.
Yeah.
And that's a thing. Fighter. Fighter is a mixture of, honestly, melee, defender, or range.
Yes, and so it will be one of the first ones that we're talking about that really can be really good at range.
I'm going to say, honestly, I'm going to put it in melee, but this is one that you could put in all three.
Yes.
If I
can spec your fighter whichever way you want.
Yeah, if I could copy this one, I would honestly put it in all three. Because they are equally as good. There are more fighter subclasses that are better at melee, but the ranged one is really friggin' good. Mm-hmm. And the defender ones are really fucking good.
Yeah.
It's like, when they specialize in something, they really specialize. And it's hard to, say that they're not good at it. Alright. So remember how I told you that every melee class could be a defender? You mentioned that? And I said there'd be one class where I would argue that with you?
Uh-huh.
Monk is it in 5th ed.
And I will concede that point. Yeah.
Monks have shit for AC. They have, in 5th ed anyway, their HP is poo-poo. And they burn through key points like they're frickin' crack fiends.
Yeah, they're a weird mix of like melee and a dash of skill. And not necessarily in the number of skills sense, but just in the ability to sort of surgically apply that melee damage where it's needed because of their ridiculous mobility.
Yeah, I'd say they're straight up melee. They're really good at melee. And they've specialized in it really well, but that's all they're good at. At least in 5th ed.
Yeah.
I mean, there is one or two subtypes that have like the offensive magic ability, but they're not good at it. And it's not stellar.
Yeah.
Paladin. For me, paladins are straight up defenders. There's only one or two builds that are not defender builds.
I would agree. There are a couple of melee builds.
There's one offensive magics build.
Really? I don't think I've run across that one, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say defenders kind of their home zone.
Yeah, defenders are home zone. They have a support build, which is like a hospitalator build. So there's kind of that. But Paladin mostly sticks in Defender pretty heavily. And which makes sense with them. They have high HP, high armor. Their saves are always really high. They're immune to fear. I mean, it's really hard to put one down. And they can heal themselves. So there is that, and that works out great for them. If you're going to be a defending character. Ranger is range.
I mean, you almost have to put it in range.
Yeah.
I was going to make a joke that it shouldn't even be on the tier list because they keep trying to make it not suck, but did they ever finally figure out a version of Ranger that's pretty good?
In Tasha's, they rewrote Beastmaster,
Mm-hmm.
and it's actually decent.
Okay.
So there is that. I would recommend. That's probably the one good Ranger build. Rangers, they're very much Rangers. They're great with that bow. They have their animal companion, which helps out in Beastmaster builds. They're decent. Like, their skills are mostly geared towards tracking things, hunting things down, nailing things. And their offensive magic are mostly geared towards making the range attacks do more damage.
They're good in a game that's designed to deal with them.
Yeah, you almost have, like, as Ann put it, you have to build a game around them.
Yeah.
To be efficient. And that is kind of sad. Compared to earlier versions of them. And I hate saying that because, like, in earlier versions, some of them were really good. Which we'll talk about in Pathfinder, because, like, we'll get there. Rogue. Rogue is... I know I want to put it in skill here, but in 5th ed...
There's a good argument for it, but...
5th ed really hates skills.
It is not as skill-focused as some other games.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. They do use a lot of skills. They stealth. They disable traps. They do a lot of skill stuff.
Yep.
But the majority of the things I've seen in a lot of the games I've watched play, and I've seen in builds with them and things of that nature, all seem to gear them up towards killing things. And that seems to be the main goal, is melee combat. Some can be built towards range, but you have to be really up close for range. So, yeah. At least that's my thought. I'm not sure if you've had any different experiences with rogues in 5th ed.
Not really.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. If you want to play a sneaky little bugger that's constantly stealing things, picking locks, by all means, play a rogue. They're fun. But keep in mind in 5th ed, your main shtick in combat is going to be sneaking up to the enemy, shanking them in the back, or sneaking around the enemy and hitting them with a crossbow. And if you are using a crossbow, take the Crossbow Expert or Crossbow Master feat. So that way you can reload as a move action. Or it might be a free action. I forget what it is. Let me look. How's a Crossbow Master? I think it's Crossbow Master. No, it's Crossbow Expert. So it's Crossbow Expert. I knew it was something like that. You ignore the loading property of crossbows of which you're proficient. Being within 5 feet of a hostile creature does not impose disadvantage on your ranged attack rolls. And when you use an attack action with an attack with a one-handed weapon, you can use your bonus attack to attack with a hand crossbow. That's what Crossbow Expert does.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Sorcerer, well, let's be brutally honest, what they were aiming for was Sorcerer, especially with the sorcery points. That screams to me offensive magic.
Yeah. And honestly, you probably want to just jam Warlock right there next to it.
Yeah, like Eldritch Blast. Like, that is literally the cantrip everybody Warlock seems to take, excluding, like, a few select ones who want to do weird things.
Honestly, it's fantastic. It's better than any ranged weapon in the game. My Bard is thinking about dipping in to take a feat so I can get Eldritch Blast. That's because at my level, we're at all 5th level, I can do 2 blasts doing a D10 damage each, or I can fire my bow for 1d8 plus 3 at one target for the same action.
I mean, Eldritch Blast is like, they made it really potent.
Yeah. I mean, there are arguments to be made for like, oh well, a shorter longbow can, fire at longer range than Eldritch Blast, but usually takes disadvantage on that. And I'm like, that's great, but 120-foot range, I think it is for Eldritch Blast by default. That's solid.
Let me double check. I think you're right.
You can make it longer with another feat, like the
Eldritch Spear.
Eldritch Spear, the Warlock Pact thingy. But
yeah, let me see. Eldritch Blast. What is it? Its range is 120 feet. And then there's Eldritch Spear, which is I think it increases it to 300 feet.
Yeah, not sure.
If memory serves.
But in any case, yeah, Eldritch Blast is fantastic. Obviously, you can build a Warlock towards melee with like the Hexblade type stuff, but your 9 Warlocks out of 10 are going to be in your offensive magic slot.
All right, what's the other feat they're recommending? Spell Sniper? Oh, God. There's another feat you can add to that.
Nice.
Called Spell Sniper. Whenever you cast a spell that requires to make an attack roll, the spell range is doubled. You ignore attacks that require half or 3/4 cover. You learn 1 cantrip that requires an attack roll. Choose that cantrip from Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, or Warlock, or Wizard spell list. Your spellcasting ability for this cantrip, choose from the spell list you chose from, and that's it. So you could just take the feat Spell Sniper, get Eldritch Blast from that, double its range to 240 feet, and congratulations.
Yes.
You're gonna fuck shit up.
But there's like an Eldritch Adept feat that lets you pick 2 cantrips and a once per day casting of a 1st level spell. And there's another good Warlock cantrip, like Green Flame Blade, I think it's called.
Oh yeah, Green Flame Blade's good. Hey, little red panda, welcome.
And as a part of the attack with Green Flame Blade, when you cast it, you get to swing your weapon. So as a bard, I've got a rapier in my hand, and I've actually got a Frostbrand rapier, and doing the normal damage plus the frost plus the green flame, that just sounds amazing. I will be mulching people in combat.
Wizard, by the way, I will say is, I'm going to put it in offensive, but it can literally be support caster too.
Yes, it's the one that I think of the 3 arcane, magic classes, has the best claim to support. I suppose you could build a sorcerer that way, but Wizard's sheer versatility really lets them dip into that a little better.
And not to mention, you could also change your spells every day, so...
Change your spells every day. You can have a ritual book. You can know as many spells as you can afford to buy.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, just that the fact that you can have any number of rituals that you can cast, that's amazing.
Little Red Panda, we are discussing D&D classes, and we're educating people on D&D classes, how they are, what roles they fit into, things of that nature. And we're talking about larger roles. All right? Now, why are we discussing these roles and things of that nature? Well, I didn't bring that up before, and now I'm going to bring it up. When you're in a party, or you're joining a party, you should try to have what's called party balance. Should you enforce it? No, but it helps, especially if the DM's using a pre-gen adventure. I think you can agree with me on that, especially a pre-gen one. Right, Gamera?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because those pre-gens assume you have party balance. And
Yeah.
and that is a little annoying at times. Like, but if you have a good DM, they can adapt to it and stuff like that. But you don't always have a great DM.
Yeah, there are party roles I think that are more critical than others. It's very difficult
Welcome,
in
traveler.
most modern D&D derivatives to do something without some kind of healer, for instance.
Yeah.
Um,
Welcome, Flying Ryan 13F, by the way, to the tavern. Grab yourself a mug of ale, pull up a chair, and enjoy the tales we tell. Yeah, like in 5th Ed, you don't need a healer as much.
yeah.
They really pumped up the power of potions. The short rest also kind of helps.
Yes.
The stream's going well, by the way, Flying Ryan. We are educating people on Dungeons and Dragons today.
I remember one 3.5 game that I was in, and it was just the GM and 3 players, and we had a barbarian, a paladin, and me playing a ranger rogue. We had an NPC cohort cleric, but we did not have like an offensive spellcaster. We didn't have like a full party member cleric. We had the paladin to do a little healing, and we had the NPC cleric that we could access, but it was a very skewed party. And what had happened was it was difficult for the GM to balance encounters because one of two things would happen. One, he would try to do lots of enemies, and then the encounter would bog down because, I mean, lots of enemies in 3.0 or 3.5 is just slow anyway. But we didn't have, like, Fireball. We
Yeah,
didn't
you didn't
have
have big AoEs.
we did not have any AoEs. But if he put us up against like a single threat or a single threat with like a couple of lieutenants, we would steamroll them. There was some kind of corrupted treant in one battle that had like 300 or 400 hit points, and we were supposed to have a rough fight. And the paladin did his charge thing, and the barbarian hit it once, and it was dead.
Yeah.
Just gone.
Dropping in from Network Nations, you came from my stream, wanted to show some love back. Hey man, I appreciate the visit. If you want to lurk, by all means, lurk away. If you need to go, that's fine too, man. But yeah, I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with what this represents, for at least 5th Ed.
Yeah.
This looks like a good list.
Sure.
Now we have the other one, which is going to take a little longer. There's no picture, sadly, though. Just names. And that is Pathfinder. Oh boy.
Oh God. You're doing all of them.
Hey, that's what that's what the list gave me, was all of them.
Oh, okay.
I don't generate these down here. Some of these I do not know.
I'm gonna be rough on a couple of them myself.
All right. So, Alchemist.
The Alchemist I love, just as the weird mix of abilities.
Okay, fine. Ryan's asking for a quick recap. We are discussing classes from D&D and Pathfinder, what roles they fit into, and so that way when you decide to play a character in a game, like you're joining a game or you and your friends are building a party, how to do good party balance. So that way if you're doing like a pre-generated adventure, like you bought a book, like City of the Spider Queen or Rise of the Rune Lords or anything like that, you can build a well-balanced party so that way you don't get nasty surprises later on. Or to make your DM's life a little easier.
Yeah.
But we're also discussing each class and what they do, so that way if you ever decide to play these games, you have in your head, you go, hey, this class sounds kind of awesome. I want to play this.
Yeah.
We covered 5th Ed just now, and now we're going into the much wider game of Pathfinder, which has a lot more classes. All right. Alchemist, so to give everybody the idea of what an alchemist does, they brew potions while in combat. They can also throw bombs.
Yes.
And all kinds of fun little things like that. They do have a fair amount of skills.
Mm-hmm.
They are a moderately skill-heavy class. So if I were to put them on this list, there are 3 categories they fit into for me. All right? Offensive magic,
Sure.
skill,
Yeah.
and support.
Interesting. So you see their bombs as offensive magic.
Well, not just their bombs. Like, some of their mutagens and some of their potions also can be used offensively.
Well, I mean, the mutagen's like a self buff that would turn them into like a melee character, for instance. I guess you could call that offensive magic.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's covered under support. Like, I wouldn't call the mutagen
Sure.
that. But some of their abilities, like if you take a certain ability where you can make your potions affect others,
right.
you can cause some of your negative effects on others.
Yes. So I'm really focusing in on the bomb throwing ability because I think that's their primary interaction with combat. That's how they deal damage. And they have a lot of really great, easy to get feats that modify those. I just don't know whether I'd call it offensive magic or range because it's not really a spell. So that's kind of where I was coming in. Like I see the skill, I see the support, but I don't know whether or not to call their bombs offensive magic or just ranged attacks.
Yeah. If anything, though, I would say their class is mostly falling under support, though, for me.
That's fair.
At least that's my opinion. Like, a lot of their abilities seem to aid other party members.
Yeah. I would not argue too hard against that.
Yeah, no problem, Red Panda. If you want to lurk, go ahead. We have a command called !lurk. So if you want to use that, you're also welcome to it. But yeah, I could see Alchemist as support. Anti-Paladin, probably melee.
I mean, they are all about hurting people, and they don't really seem to have the concern about defending people. So, yeah, I would say that anti-paladin is an easy melee.
All right, so for those who are watching, Anti-Paladin is like your Dark Knights. They use unholy power to imbue themselves to do more damage to their foes.
Yeah.
They can inflict wounds on others. They can strengthen themselves to hit their opponents harder with their swords. They have Smite Good. They can cause diseases, inflict fear on their opponents, like debuff their enemies. But I wouldn't call that offensive magic. That all seems to roll into the role as a melee character. Because a lot of those abilities require you to be really up close and personal.
Yes.
I gotta move up some. There we go. So there is that. I would very much say they're a melee character.
Yeah, that's fair.
Arcanist.
I had to look them up to remind myself.
They're a wizard. They're a wizard.
Well, yeah, they're the supposed hybrid class for sorcerer wizard. And yeah, so you really gonna slop them right into offensive magic as a kind of default.
Though you could say that they're also a support character too.
They can be support. They have some of the versatility of a wizard.
Yeah. They don't. The only big difference between an arcanist and a wizard is they don't get the specialty schools.
Yeah, and they get their arcane exploits, which I was sort of looking at.
And some of them are combat oriented, some are support oriented. Like,
Yeah.
so you could do a lot with it either way.
Yeah.
Arcanist is a good, fun class. I would recommend an Arcanist if you want to play a wizard, but you're not set on a school. I feel like that's a kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Pathfinder Barbarian, once again, melee.
Yeah, I mean, you can do. I think there are a few like archetypes that lend themselves to defending others, but 9 out of 10 barbarians are just melee machines.
There's one archetype that's skill. One. And it's only if you're like in the wilderness kind of shit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like you have to be really in the wilderness. So there is that. Now we get to Bard.
which is always fun.
Yeah, Pathfinder Bard is so different in this game than it is in 5th Ed.
It is. And again, well, it's different, but it also can still kind of fit most of these roles.
Oh yeah, it fits all the roles, honestly.
It's a little weak on the offensive magic side. I will say that your Bard in Pathfinder being a 6 casting level class rather than a 9 casting level class.
That's fair.
Doesn't have quite some of the oomph. I mean, you can still do things with magic like charms and illusions and things like that. Don't get me wrong, but it's not necessarily something that gets emphasized as much.
Right.
I've done a melee Bard. Uh, you remember my melee Bard?
Oh yes.
But I would say that skill and support are the easy top 2 for Bard and Pathfinder.
I would argue skill more than support.
I would probably lean that way as well. I mean, the inspiration abilities are nice. The secondary healer stuff is nice, but it's not as integrated into the class and easy to do with like bonus actions as it is in 5th edition.
Yeah, and then not to mention in Pathfinder you have versatile performance. You have so it makes them really good at being social.
They're jack of all trades abilities
Yeah.
that just make them okay. Well, we need someone who has knowledge, nobility, and royalty, and nobody has points in it. Well, I can make the roll anyway.
Yeah, fuck it, let's go.
So yeah, I would say Bard is your best skill class.
And I will be brutally honest, bards are the best social characters in the game.
Yeah.
If you want to be a social person in D&D, play bard.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be the horny bard. You don't have to hump everything.
I have never played a horny bard.
I played the horny bard once as a joke. I was playing in a pirate game.
Mm-hmm.
And I played the horny bard, and I didn't just sleep with every woman on the ship. I slept with every one.
Yeah.
And it was funny. But I was at least reasonable about it. Blood Ragers. So, this class, I do not get why they made this class. I don't understand who would ever want to play a Barbarian Sorcerer.
I mean, I think they were just fishing for ideas to blend X and Y, and they came up with what would a Barbarian and Sorcerer mix look like.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, the idea of like the bloodline powers for the Blood Rager, that's sort of like the Sorcerer bloodlines. I get where there's the thematic overlap there. It's not a class that I've ever looked at and is like, yeah, I've got a great idea for a Blood Rager. I'm going to play a Blood Rager.
I had a player that played a Blood Rager in one of my games.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't terrible, but he used a lot of spells to buff himself.
Yeah.
And then would go into combat. And I feel like that's where Blood Ragers hit. Because they're rarely... Because you can't cast spells while enraged.
Right.
And even Blood Ragers don't really get that ability.
Yeah. I've got the D20 PFSRD up here so I can look at some of this stuff. The Blood Rage, blah, blah, blah. Cannot use any skills. Yeah, doesn't say that they can cast spells during it. At 4th level, they gain to get the ability to cast spells while blood raging.
Yeah.
So at the first 3 levels, no. But once you hit 4th level, you can do blood rager spells only, just in case you're thinking of cheesing it with a multi-class.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that their offensive capabilities are outweighing their melee capabilities.
Yeah, I'd say very much melee.
Yes.
You take this class, you take a bunch of sorcerer like buff spells,
Yeah,
and then just go to town.
It's like the classic, Gish type build, as people used to call them, or your blade singers. It's your melee arcanist blend, but just less refined than a blade singer.
All right. So this next class, I want to go back real quick to 5th ed for one thing.
Uh-huh.
It's something I read, and I didn't believe it, and then I looked into it, and holy shit, is this accurate. Monks in 5th ed, you can put them in full plate.
Really?
It's not part of their class originally, but if you take the feat to put them in full plate, it actually helps them.
I think they would lose the wisdom bonus to AC, but yeah.
Yeah, they lose their wisdom bonus AC, but their AC gets higher from their heavy armor.
Yeah.
All right. They lose their unarmored movement.
Yeah.
Which isn't the worst thing in the world if you don't want to go for mobility. But all the other monk abilities are not armor dependent.
That's neat.
You can flurry of blows. You can, do the little defensive thing. You can do all that other crazy monk shit, including run up walls in full plate.
That's amazing.
And it's just like, how did no one in Wizards proofread this and notice this?
I mean, I think they just didn't care.
It's like, whoops. With that being said, we come to the Pathfinder class that's similar to that concept. Brawler. Which is a fighter-monk mix.
Yes.
I think this is not a bad idea mix, because the whole premise of it is you take your weapon, you hit the enemy a few times, and then with an extra bonus action, essentially, you punch them.
Yep. And what I will say is that I love the Brawler for filling in a gap in Pathfinder and 3.0 and 3.5, because so many classes were alignment restricted, which I am so glad that 5th edition did away with that.
As a DM, I do away with that often.
Yes, but the ability to make a monk-like character that is not lawful was long overdue.
Oh my god.
The Brawler provided a rules-as-written way to do that. Yeah, of course, the GM could always just override it. That's fine. House rules are a good option sometimes. But it was nice to have an official acknowledgement like, hey, maybe people who are good at hitting people with their fists don't have to be, super zen and honorable.
Yeah, sometimes they're just like some drunken dude in a bar who's gotten into one too many fistfights.
Yes.
Brawler, though, when you look at the class and how it's built, can go two ways.
Mm-hmm.
They can be melee.
Yep.
And they can be defenders.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. The style of defender is interesting. They're an area denial defender. They are all about tripping the opponent, grappling the opponent, disarming the opponent, much like a monk would be.
Yep. And they're actually a little more durable than a monk, generally speaking.
And they're better at it.
Yeah.
Because they're also in heavy armor. You can put them in heavy armor and still do it.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of kooky. If I was building a brawler, I would probably make it more defender than offensive.
Yeah, I would say that that's fair. Take some, standstill feat?
Yep. And give him a spear.
Yeah.
Give him a spear. I would say these guys are our first defender.
I will go along with that, sure.
I feel like if you want to say there's something else, by all means, have at it, man.
No, I mean, it's just the melee is strong with them too, but I'm going to say that they're a little more defendery than melee.
Yeah. But it's close. I will agree with you.
Yeah.
It's really close. Cavalier. Cavalier is... Oof, I want to say melee.
I don't want to talk about it in a Cavalier fashion, so I'm going to look it up. Okay.
Oh God. Just jerk.
Welcome, traveler.
Just jerking. Welcome to the tavern. Grab yourself a mug of ale, pull up a chair, enjoy the tales we tell here. Just lurking while I finish my work. Emails. By all means, man, have at it. I get that all too well.
Okay, so the Cavaliers got the challenge ability. So the Cavalier is sort of the backfilled Paladin variant, but with less of the holiness and more of the knightly stuff.
And they
Got
can
it.
taunt.
Yes.
Which makes me want to label them as a defender, but here's the thing. The only thing that makes them defendery is the challenge.
Yes.
Everything else screams melee.
Yeah, and their challenge ability
Is not great.
doesn't actually stop the opponent from attacking other people.
It just gives them a -2 AC penalty. I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the Cavalier takes a penalty to their AC except against attacks made by the target of the challenge.
Yeah.
Um,
So it's not great.
Each Cavalier's challenge also includes another effect based on their order, so
Right.
there is additional stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of orders.
Yeah.
I would say Cavalier fits more in melee than Defender. Because how the class was meant to be built was you're on horseback, you are charging in, hitting them with your spear, and then charging past.
Yeah.
And then turn around, rinse and repeat.
They also get a bunch of teamwork feats, which honestly dashes a little support in there, but I think melee's definitely the best argument.
The big reason for the teamwork feats is Cavaliers are expected later on to have an intelligent mount.
Yep.
And the intelligent mount is supposed to get those teamwork feats with them.
Ah.
Yeah, that is the reason behind it. So that is why.
All right. But yeah, I would go with melee for Cavalier.
If you're going to play a Cavalier, my recommendation is build a charger.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you can, get a flying mount. Abuse the hell out of it. Not the mount, but abuse the hell out of the tactics with the mount. Don't abuse your mount.
This channel does not in any way endorse the abuse of your fantastical mounted creatures. No griffins were harmed in the making of this episode.
You know what the most common mount I've seen for Cavaliers in the games I played in Pathfinder? Wyverns.
I mean, it's a little unconventional, a little outside the box, but yeah, I mean, you got that poison sting tail. They're good flyers.
They have great maneuverability for their size, and they have decent speed.
Yeah.
It was just like, damn. Cleric, once again, support.
It is. I mean, Pathfinder clerics. One of the wonderful things about clerics in like 3rd edition and onward is they suddenly became outside this box that they'd been in for a long time.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
By the way, welcome CC Money.
Yeah, if you'll indulge me just a second. Back in 2nd edition, clerics were very, very hidebound and one thing. And then that started to loosen a little bit with the introduction of the idea of specialty priests. So whatever god you had could give you some differing abilities, different favored weapons. But a cleric, on the whole, still remained very much this very narrow definition. You couldn't use weapons that had edges on them because, you didn't like shedding blood. You could wear heavy armor, but you didn't have a lot of spells that were like super utility spells or attack spells. You had very narrow blinders on, but 3.0 just blew the doors off of it with domains and feats and then prestige classes, and then we had archetypes with Pathfinder. So clerics became almost as much of an anything class as bards.
Yeah,
they're
definitely.
Still not great at skills.
Yeah, I would say skills and ranged are possibly their two weakest.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that there's not a like archetype out there for Pathfinder that's like a cleric of a hunter god that does ranged well, but it's definitely not their usual case.
Yeah.
Um,
I still
Support,
I'd still label them as support, but it's only because like the majority of their stuff is geared towards that. But you can easily build them to be a melee, defender, offensive magic, or skill.
well, skill's still kind of tricky. Even the archetypes that are like, I think cloistered cleric lets you give up some of your martial ability to have some enhanced skills. Even then, you're not competing with like a bard or a rogue.
No, no, no,
Um, but
but
any of the other four, the melee, defender, offensive, support.
yeah. For example, like Anne right now in Rise of the Rune Lords, we're playing that. She did a cleric of Gorum,
Mm-hmm.
and she is a melee cleric,
Yeah.
and she is walking around with a big honking greatsword as a
Mm-hmm.
dwarven cleric, and is just straight up hitting things like a Mack truck.
Yeah.
Especially since she put spell storing in her greatsword,
Mm-hmm.
and she has inflict serious wounds into it, or is it
Nice.
critical? Whichever one's a level 3 variant. I always mix that one up.
Let's see. It goes light, then moderate, then serious, I
Okay, so it's
think.
serious. Okay. So yeah, she has inflict serious on in it at all times. And then whenever she finds a big enough enemy to hit with it, she'll be like, BAM! It's like,
Absolutely.
yeah, you are gonna get jacked, buddy.
But yeah, I mean, 90% of clerics are going to be really good at support, and that is going to be something that, even the 10% can do pretty well. So I would say support is
Oh
where they
yeah.
live.
Oh, definitely. Like it's really hard to get them out of that box, but damn, when they do leave that box, they can do some heinous things with it. Like, god damn, man.
Yeah.
Druid. This is where things change from 5th ed.
Yeah, I would say that your Pathfinder Druid, you can spec them for melee. You can pick certain wild shapes and a good scimitar, but it's more difficult. I would say that your average Druid will either fit into support or offensive magic, and which one they're in sort of depends on what spells they pick that morning.
I feel, honestly, for me, I would go with offensive magic.
And
And it's
yeah,
because they can control the environment in a way no other class in the game can.
yes, and that's something that we really aren't haven't discussed yet is like crowd control and terrain manipulation, but that would be really offensive magic as far as these categories, and absolutely, spike stones, entangle,
Oh yeah,
control weather.
like firewalls. They can still do the firewalls and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They can funnel enemies into a nice little cone for you, and your fighter or paladin or barbarian can just go to town on one or two enemies at a time, and there's nothing that the enemy can do to do shit to stop it.
And I will add that if you're ever in a campaign that's going to be like Game of Thrones style, or just something where you've got big nations and armies going to war, one goddamn druid can savage an army at moderate to high level.
Yeah. Oh no.
Um,
Hell, one druid at moderate level can savage a country.
it would take them a while. You usually don't have enough area to do it in a single day, but
Well, I mean, if you give them enough time, they will literally go around blighting crops and shit.
oh yeah, yeah. But like I'm saying, you have two armies meeting on the field of battle. The druid's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and cast all these spells, and yeah, they're gonna try to charge through a muddy field up at us, and we're gonna cut them down. I'm gonna make sure the wind's going in the right direction for our arrows. It's crazy. I played a dwarven. Yeah, I think he had a splash of fighter, but he was mainly a druid, and just yeah, the ability to manipulate the terrain and the weather was incredible.
Yeah, you cannot underestimate that, especially in a kingdom building game. Like in Pathfinder, there's a whole pre-built adventure called Kingmaker. They made a video game for it. Have a party member play a druid, because hands down, most of the events you're going to run into, your druid is going to fuck shit up.
Yep.
They're like, oh, we're dealing with bandits that keep robbing people. Well, that's adorable. Well, good luck on them robbing the road, because now all the roads are surrounded by killer thorns.
Yeah.
Have a nice day, guys. Come out from the bushes. Come on, let's do it.
And don't sleep on their information gathering abilities. Talking to plants and animals, taking on animal forms themselves.
Oh yeah, God, they are exceptional information gatherers in the wild. Jesus. Not to mention they had that one spell that's like they slam their staff or something on the ground, and like for X number of miles they know everything that's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, fuck it. I know everything.
Commune with nature, I think.
Yeah, it's commune with nature, and you get to know like the strongest creature. You get to know how many creatures are running around. Like if there's any large encampments, it's like, god damn. Fighter. Once again, we got fighters that are melee, defender, and range easily.
Yeah. Oh, we have a question.
Oh, we have a question. I'm back. What are we working on? We are educating people just on D&D classes and Pathfinder classes. So that way, if you ever decide to pick up the game, you'll have an idea of what class you may want to play, or things called party balance, where certain classes are good at certain things. And so that way, it makes your DM's life a little easier if you decide to play. And DM stands for Dungeon Master, the person who's running the game. It's kind of the thing.
Yeah. So the fighter, not as sexy an option in Pathfinder as it is in 5th edition. I
wouldn't put them in as much into melee in this game. At least base fighter.
Yeah, I mean, your fighter is all about feat acquisition and technique, so you can do a lot of good stuff. If you want to go with like a power attack fighter, try to maximize your damage in a very well defended full plate package. That's great.
I think defender fits honestly better though for me.
I think that's a great option for fighters. Again, you take stuff like stand still, you do like a pole arm type situation, and a fully armored fighter that has the right feats, you're not getting past them if they're blocking a hallway until you kill them.
Or hell, you can go single weapon and shield, and go with the shield bashing feats, and you can knock enemies down as they try to go past you.
Yep.
And congratulations, the enemy ain't going nowhere.
You can build a good ranged fighter, but they're just not nearly as good at it as the other classes that we're about to discuss. So yeah, I would say defender.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, they're a decent archer.
Yeah.
They make a decent archer.
And the nice thing about a fighter is you're going to have enough feats that, you can be a really good with your sword and shield and still be pretty good with a bow. Like, you're not useless at range. You can be the party's second best ranged combatant very easily. But unless you choose to focus on that, you're not going to be the best. And if you do choose to focus on that, you're missing out on some things like the ranger has, because you're heavily armored generally. You're not going to have the mobility. Now, again, there are always archetypes that sort of play with this, but...
Yeah. Gunslinger, gee, I wonder where this one fits.
I was going to say melee.
Alright, so for those who don't know what a gunslinger is, in Pathfinder, we have guns. They are black powdered guns, for the most part. AP! Hey, welcome! AP, we're talking D&D stuff. So if you want to hang around, you can learn some more about D&D and Pathfinder. Woohoo! Gunslingers, though, they are if you picture the Western cowboy, you are not far off.
Yeah.
Th- th-
Very Clint Eastwoody.
yeah, very. But they use black powder weapons.
Yep.
So there's a yay D&D Pathfinder learning. Yes. Um, and they usually only get one shot around,
Yep.
but that one shot will fucking hurt.
Yeah, they usually have enhanced critical modifiers and just nasty stuff at close range.
Welcome, Amarazzo Blaze. I'm gonna mess that up. I do apologize. We're teaching people about D&D and Pathfinder today, my friend. That's what's up. The upside with Gunslinger, though, is like you got some abilities to get back that grit pool that you use for your special abilities, which is the energy pool you have.
Yep.
But the downside is it is difficult to do. But on the upside, they can do some pretty heinous damage. Like the pistol's not bad; it's a good starter weapon.
Yeah.
But the musket is the way to go.
It's nice, yeah.
Especially with that ×4 crit.
Yes.
It's like, hi, 1d12 ×4 plus, God help you if you use Deadshot.
Yeah. Just sniper built gunslingers are really, really nasty.
They're also really, really common.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the upside of Gunslinger is it doesn't matter how much armor your opponent is wearing, as long as they're in one range increment,
Yes.
which is they're about 40 to 60 feet, it counts as a touch attack, which means you bypass the armor they're wearing.
Which is incredibly useful.
Insanely so.
Yeah, I don't think they bypass natural armor though, do they?
I don't think so. Let me double check Gunslinger.
I think they just bypass worn armor, but not natural armor, since that represents the actual toughness of the body.
Gunsmith, blah blah blah, grit, deeds, all firearms, blah. Firearms, proficiency, range and penetration, early firearms. Targets touch AC when targets in the first range you can remove. This attack is not considered a touch attack for the purposes of feats or abilities such as deadly aim. No, it's complete touch attack.
Okay, so that's actually even better than I thought it was.
Yeah.
So, that's great against things like dragons that have ridiculous
ACs,
natural armor.
Emerald Blaze, I own a couple 5th Ed players' handbooks and a couple others. We did the 5th Ed one earlier, explaining the 5th Ed classes. We'll go back and cover those here in a moment. Once we get through all those Pathfinder classes. Suffice to say, we're covering the basic categories, which are melee, which is the guy who gets up close, hits the enemy a lot until they stop moving. Or as the guy in Mascosaurus says, do you know how to use that thing? Yes. Pointy end goes into other man. There's Defender, which is the guy who takes the hits, so the other party gets it. Offensive magic users, which are what most people see as magic users, which are like wizards who are throwing fireballs, lightning bolts, things of that nature. Skill characters who use their skill abilities to get the job done. Primarily, these are your guys who are sneaking around, stealing things. The super social characters, knowledge characters, also fit in this category. Range characters are the guys who use bows or ranged weapons that are not magic to hurt the enemy a lot.
Yeah.
And then the support character, their job is to make everybody else in the party do their job better.
And or get them back up when they get knocked down.
Oh, yeah. So there's that. So next we've hit, for Pathfinder, Hunter, which is pretty much another version of Ranger.
Yeah, it's the Ranger Druid hybrid class. It's one that makes a certain amount of sense, But since Ranger already had a little bit of Druid spellcasting, it feels like it's in a weird place to me.
Yeah.
Um, let's see.
Dude, that's
Eh,
awesome. He says Wizards of the Coast is about 2 hours from where he lives.
Nice.
That's cool as hell. So, I'd still say they're ranged. A lot of their abilities and specialties and everything for Hunter falls into the range category.
Yeah, that could be. I'm looking over their list of stuff because honestly, I've never. It seems like they've got a lot of animal companion stuff, a lot of tracking.
Yeah,
Um,
Dalton played one in my Traviel game, my last big Traviel game.
Here, I mean, they've got 6 skill points per level base, and a wide variety of skills. They are actually more skill oriented than I thought. So, here's the thing: I don't know that they belong in range because they don't get the ranger combat style,
Oh,
as
that's
far as
true.
I can tell.
They could be skill then. I could see them in skill.
I would say that you're going to look at them as either skill or maybe support, because you've got a decent number of druid spells. Um,
Oh,
the hunter's bond or hunter tactics that affects just the animal companion. I
yeah.
was thinking of hunter's bond.
But the animal focus, though, on the other hand, affects them. It makes them very much more
Yes.
combaty. Or,
Well,
and as well as skilly.
yes, that's what I was going to say. A lot of the animal focuses are, you know, gets dark vision, bonus to perception, bonus to swim, bonus to climb, bonus to stealth. Um,
Yeah, I'd
they're-
say we can put them in skill then. Yeah, that makes more
yeah,
sense.
I'd say that they're a weird skill class. Honestly, they're not good enough with the magic to be offensive magic or support. They're not really good enough with bows to be range, but they do kind of fit a weird. Like if you're running a nature-based campaign, you might prefer this to a bard. It really feels like a woodsy bard.
Okay, that can make sense. Inquisitor. I want to put Inquisitor under skill.
I'm going to refresh myself on the wiki again. I
Yeah.
have never had anybody run the Inquisitor, though I've looked at it in the past.
Jerry has played an Inquisitor, and he played it very skill heavy.
Yeah, 6 ranks per level. Anything that has 6 or more ranks per level, that definitely has some justification there for skills. It's a 6 level spell casting.
Yep. So I wouldn't put it in offensive magic.
No, yeah, I would say that with their abilities, let's see, the judgment ability is the signature ability.
And that's a mixture of melee and ranged on that one.
Yeah, bonus to attack rolls, self-healing.
Damage.
Yeah. But the monster lore ability is nice.
And
That's definitely skills.
That's heavily skill, yeah.
Yeah.
The best way to describe Inquisitor, I feel, is like The Witcher.
Yeah.
It gives me a Witcher vibe.
Yep. I would say, yeah, I will agree that this is a skill class, which is sort of funny to me because I never really thought of them that way. But a lot of their abilities enhance their skills for hunting for their quarry. So, yeah,
Investigator is also skill.
absolutely.
Just,
Not even a question.
yeah, not even a question. Like, the best way to describe Inquisitor is like you're hunting down heretics for the church. As your job. The best way to describe Investigator is you're fucking Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. They get a pool of points they can spend for extra D6s on skill rolls, and it's just super useful. In my last Pathfinder game, I had someone playing a rogue who dipped into Investigator and never looked back. It was just a great investment. She
Our,
was our skill monkey.
our Rise of the Rune Lords game, our Brawler took a couple levels of Investigator
Nice.
to get knowledge skills.
Yes.
It is Investigator is a hard class to pass up if you want a lot of knowledge and skills and perception and everything.
Yeah, and it's great for like a 2 or 3 level dip.
Yeah, especially. Kineticist, I would say is, I'm gonna say offensive magic.
Hey, see, I treat it as range.
Well, here's the reason why I say offensive magic.
Okay.
Because while some of their kinetic blasts count as physical, a fair amount of them also count as magical and requires to bypass spell resistance.
I'm going to say the reason that I would put them as range instead of offensive magic is more that the default mode of operation for Kineticist is generally 1 target or 2 targets. There are some things you can do to modify, but they don't really get like environment manipulation type spells. They don't really get like a fireball equivalent. They are
Not without taking some abilities.
They're basically like, fuck that thing in particular. And to me, that leans a little more towards range or offensive, but it really means quibbling about what we mean by those 2 categories. So either one, depending on how you define the category, makes sense.
I could agree with what you're saying. Because they have to really take certain abilities to get the AoEs.
Oh, yes.
It's not directly baked into their class.
And it, you're right that sometimes their single target damage happens to be its fire energy damage, and there's a spell resistance check.
Yeah.
That's great, but does that really reflect the breadth of what like a druid is doing or an arcanist?
That's true.
Mm-hmm. I love Kineticist. It is a fantastic class. I think it's very cool.
I will say this to the audience. If you ever want to play out your fantasy of Avatar The Last Airbender,
yes,
Kineticist is your class.
Yes.
That's a class you need to play. You literally take control of an element, you shoot energy blasts of that element out of your hands at enemies, and you can manipulate that element around you. You can like move the earth or like control water and like form ice armor around you and shit and do all kinds of kooky stuff with it.
Yes.
It is a very well written class in my opinion. Like, it's unique.
Yes.
Like, when I first picked it up, I was like, because Dalton recommended it to me with a Earth Fire Kineticist.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. It's probably something little weird, like you get a blast or two, and you get maybe some other fun little abilities. And then I started playing it, and I'm like, this is a load of fun.
Yes.
It's quickly becoming one of my favorite classes in Pathfinder.
Yeah, I did a Void Kineticist briefly that was really fun in a game that was sort of Spelljammer influenced. And in my last Pathfinder game, one of my players was playing a Halfling Kineticist. I believe he was primarily air. But yeah, they're just all extremely useful and entertaining. It really feels different than a lot of other classes. Like they basically invented a whole new kind of class for Kineticist.
And each element you take drastically changes how you play.
Yeah.
Like drastically. It's fun. Magus. I want to put that in melee.
Yeah, their casting abilities probably aren't strong enough to really drop them into the full
Well, it's not even
offensive
just that.
magic.
Like, when you look at their spell list,
It's mostly self-buffs.
not even self buffs. It's all touch spells. A lot of it's either self buffs or touch spells.
Yeah.
And their whole class is all about, I take touch spell, put it in weapon, stab enemy with weapon.
Yeah. The Magus is basically the Hexblade.
Yeah. Yeah. Hexblade without being sued by it. Now, I have no experience with the medium or the mesmerist.
It's been a long time. If I recall correctly, the medium is more of a skill-based character. You can sort of like summon up ghosts to channel them to use their skills. And so, yeah, I mean, they only get 4 skill points per level, but you can summon a spirit and the spirit, basically, yeah, you can use the bonuses to checks and certain stats. And I believe you can access, like I said, some skills that the spirit once had in life.
Yeah,
Um,
but the spirit can also possess you.
yes.
Eeh.
Uh,
So
it's a weird one.
I would say probably a skill class then, because your abilities are gearing towards giving you skills and working with skills.
Yes, and here's the thing. It's not a melee class. It's not a defender. It's not an offensive magic. It's not really a support class. It's basically the only thing it can be is skill because that's the only thing it's halfway good at.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's very much like where does it fall? It's more of like where does it fall versus not.
yeah, you basically have sort of excluded all the other options.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's just like,
but it's decent at gathering information and, like I said, some skill checks. So in my mind, it's a skill-based class primarily.
all right, mesmerist. Let's see what a mesmerist is, because I have a funny feeling this is going to be. Oh no, this might be a skills class. 6+ intelligence modifier, a big heaping load of skills. It's a social class.
It is a social class, yes.
It is a psychic social class where you basically mentally fuck your enemy.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
skill.
yeah.
It's like the bard, except where the bard was nice, the mesmerist is just like, hi, I'm going in dry.
I do like the stares that it gets, the painful stares, like they can just lock eyes with somebody.
I'm not
and,
wrong.
and you know, you can add feats, so your painful stare ability can cause like bleed damage. It's like you're winning a staring contest so hard that your opponent is bleeding.
You're winning a staring contest so hard that your opponent is starting to do stigmata. Got it.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
So I mean, it's a weird sort of offensive magic that you can use on a single target, but I'd say skill is your overriding category there.
Yeah, it's the Nega Bard or like the Mirror Universe Bard.
Yes, if your bard is evil and twirls a mustache, have you considered Mesmerist?
Would you like to talk about our Lord and Savior Mesmerist? God damn. Oh no. We are so wrong. I feel like we now need to put like 18 plus now on the stream. Oh god. Oh, Monk. In Pathfinder, Monk can do Defender. I will say that.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
they
do the air.
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say they can do the area denial and trips things that you were talking about. They have good combat maneuver bonus and defense.
Yep. Their speed also gives them the ability to be anywhere to basically cover anyone. Not to mention they are exceptional at the bodyguard feats, which feat tree,
Yep.
which makes them able to intercept attacks, then proceed to block them, catch arrows that are attacking their allies.
Yes.
I mean, you could do so many great things with the Defender Monk. But
yeah.
at the same time, you can make a monk that is a straight up offensive beast.
Yeah, a Pathfinder monk is more formidable in melee than a 5th edition monk, generally, in my opinion.
But here's the kicker. You can also do a support monk.
Sure.
There are some builds you can do with monk in Pathfinder where you can do support, like those whole area deny things.
Mm-hmm.
You could build it in a way to where it aids your allies. Not in a defensive way, but in more of like, hey, I tripped that guy next to you. Now you can just stab him.
Yep.
Like, have at it.
But I would definitely plop monk into melee, especially they did a revision pass. I forget which the book it was in.
Unchained.
Unchained, yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
Unchained Monk.
And the
Yeah.
Unchained Monk, they fixed the hit die, tweaked the abilities, and yeah, I just think it's a really solid melee class.
Oh yeah, definitely. Then let's talk about Monk and Rogue's weird love child,
Oh, yes.
Ninja, which I'm going to suggest we put this in melee and not skill.
I really like the ninja class.
I know it's so heavy into skills, but a lot of its abilities are built towards combat.
I mean, here's the thing. Rogues and ninjas are going to have they're both going to have this problem. You've got sneak attack, which is huge. You've got stealth skills that allow them to get into position to use sneak attack. You've got uncanny dodge and evasion type abilities that they have access to that make them formidable in a fight. And yet, they have the largest pool of skill points and biggest skill list and abilities to manipulate skills. So they are both going to straddle that line between skill and melee.
The reason why I suggest ninja for melee and rogue for skill when we get to rogue is because the ninja's special abilities that are directly towards just ninjas aren't built towards skills. They are built mostly towards combat.
You're talking about like the ninja tricks?
Like the ninja tricks. The majority of them are combat oriented. Where a rogues are more across the board.
That's fair.
They have some combat abilities, but they have a lot of non-combat abilities too. Where ninja doesn't have that diversity in it. It's like 80% of their shit is combat. At least in their direct ninja tricks.
Yeah. I would say, though, of course, I think ninja tricks are allowed to take those rogue talents as ninja tricks, so
yeah,
it really blurs the line back.
Yeah, it does blur the line, but I'm saying like specifically ninja. Like
sure.
Because I'm trying to cut the rogue out of it.
Yeah.
To say this is what's unique about ninja.
Yeah.
Like what makes ninja unique from rogue. And
basically, yeah, that pool of key points and their extra abilities that are combat oriented, they are more combat oriented than the rogue.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that's why I say I would put them into melee and put rogue into skill. But
yeah, that is a perfectly fine way to divide them. They are one of the classes that's hardest to split for me, just because of how they both do that.
They straddle that line, man. They straddle that line good.
Yeah.
But it's fucking hard. Occultist. Occultist is a mixture of offensive and support magic. They're like the psychic wizard.
Well, you've got the psychic, which is the full 9-level psychic class.
Right.
So the occultist,
Am I mixing the two classes up? I might be. No, I was. Focus powers, implements, hacks.
Magic circles. So they look like they are kind of a versatile magic class. They do have some rockin' spells on their list. Like, I mean, it's only a 6th-level casting, but it's got Chain Lightning and Disintegrate on their 6th level, so that they've got some good rockin' combat.
Yeah,
but
that definitely want me to put them in offensive there because of Chain Lightning and Disintegrate. Jesus.
They also get the Cure series. Honestly, I might put them in support.
I could see that. I could see an argument for that.
They do information gathering. They do aura sight, magic circles. They can do stuff with outsiders. And their spell list is a good mix of like your cures. What else do we have on here? So we've got Yeah, we've got combat spells. We've got some enchantment type spells. We've got the Cure series. We've got Mage Armor. What else do we have here?
I looked
Good.
up the next class for a while. You were discussing that one because I wanted to get ready.
Oh yes, the Oracle. I'm
No,
familiar with the
not the Oracle,
Oracle.
the Umdura.
I have never heard of the Omdura.
I'll tell you about it when you get done with what you're saying.
Yeah, just based on their spell list, I would call them a support class. They're decent with, I mean, they're a 4-point skill class, so they're not bad at that. But I think the mix of their abilities is, sort of like enhance the party's effectiveness. Maybe not in combat, but like in investigation sometimes. They could come in handy. But they do have a good variety of abjuration type spells.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I could agree with that then.
Yeah.
Umduras are psychic clerics with only 6 levels of spells.
What the hell book are they from? I have never heard of them.
I don't know, but I'm looking. Contents. It doesn't say in the
Let's see.
SRD. Or maybe, will it say in the SRD somewhere?
So if you scroll down to the bottom, sometimes it does. Oh, it looks like it's from the Niobe supplement for
Where
Pathfinder.
does it say that?
If you go to section 15 copyright notice at the bottom of the PFSRD, like scroll right to
Oh,
the
Niobe.
bottom.
Okay, yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
So they're a cleric.
Yeah.
So that is a support.
Yeah, though they do get some combat abilities. They've got like some divine might that they can invoke, but I would say that you're probably right that supports their main role.
Yeah, it just if because it literally says
Oh,
like
and she can choose somebody else to receive the divine might.
yeah. So that screams support as well.
Yes.
So there is that. Oracle also going to say support on that one.
Well, here's what I'm going to say. Oracle is ridiculously versatile.
That's true. I will agree with
I
that.
I've seen melee Oracle builds. I've seen
Melee.
offensive match. Yes, yes.
That's
Uh,
weird.
Depending on your Oracle path, if you take, I think it's the War Domain, you can be a absolutely vicious bastard in combat.
Okay.
Uh, they can be good at offensive magic, like if you're like a Fire Oracle. My last Pathfinder game had someone who was mostly a Fire Oracle with a splash of Barbarian, and so she would run up and hit things, and when she couldn't do that, she would fireball them, then run up and hit things.
I could see
It was
offensive magic.
um
I'm going to see skill and range are probably not going to be great.
So really, even more so than with the cleric, the oracle varies depending on what your chosen oracle domain is.
Mm,
So it is a hard one to pin. It's not going to usually be great at defender. It's not going to be great at range. It's not going to be great at skills. Melee, I've seen, but I would say either support or offensive magic, you can make a very credible oracle without stretching beyond the bounds of the class.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Um,
But the question is, which category shall we put it in?
I would honestly put it in offensive magic because most of the domains that you pick aren't going to be support focused. Like you could still take cure spells, but your special abilities, if you want to be a support oracle, you're going to want to take the life domain. There's just absolutely no other domain that will do it half as well.
Okay.
Um, So yeah, I would actually put the Oracle as an offensive caster.
That's fair. That's fair. Paladin, once again, we're looking at Defender because a lot of their abilities just geared really towards Defender.
Yep, they're tanky. They've got great saving throws because of that divine. I forget the name of the ability. It's been a while. They're immune to diseases. They got auras that can affect the people around them. Yeah, definitely defender.
Yeah, 100%. Psychic, that was the wizard.
That is your psychic wizard. You can definitely put that one in offensive magic, though. Like a wizard, you could also make one built for support,
Right.
but the sheer versatility. Um,
Yeah. Ranger is range. What a shock.
I mean, you do have the two-handed or two-weapon fighting style if you wanted to go with a melee ranger, but I will say that the ranger, if you're going to do a bow guy, the ranger is one of your best options to do a bow guy.
Yeah, for the most part. If you want to do like you have two options for range in Pathfinder, unlike Fifth Ed. Fifth Ed, you have artificer or fighter essentially for range, which is big fuck off energy cannon or lots of arrows from the fighter. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
In Pathfinder, you have your biggest options are gun, and you get a single shot and you do a shit ton of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Ranger, which is you want to literally turn your enemy into a pincushion.
Yep. Quantity, not quality.
Yep. Which, by the way, I would highly recommend defeat clustered shot
Mm-hmm.
for that one, or you take Kineticist.
Yeah.
Those, I don't think of any other class that's really a ranged character in this game.
I don't see any coming up on the list that stand out to me.
Yeah. Rogue, we discussed earlier, they're a skill class, hands
Yeah.
down. There is no skillier class than Rogue.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do non-social skills, do Rogue. If you want to do social skills and not be an asshole, do Bard. If you want to do social skills and mentally fuck every person you run into, do Mesmerist.
Now, yeah, I will say that the rogue is probably the best melee fighter by default out of the skill group so far.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The bard, if you built like a dervish dancer, obviously you can do some pretty intense fighting. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Samurai is a melee character.
samurai, amurai, yes,
Uh,
I would say
you can build it as a defender,
yes.
but not that good at it. A lot of its orders for Samurai are built towards I'm going to fucking hit you either a lot or I'm going to hit you really hard.
Yeah,
It's one or the other. And it's going to fucking suck for you.
yep,
And if you're really into like Asian culture and the Japanese culture and stuff, yes, Samurai's not a bad choice.
no,
It's a fun fighter. It's not overly complicated. You do get the challenge function, and unlike Cavalier, where you have to have a mount, Samurai don't, and the challenge function isn't terrible.
yeah,
Because with the Cavalier, you're constantly riding in and out of combat, and it makes the challenge function difficult to pull off. Where the Samurai is standing his ground, points at the biggest, baddest motherfucker on the field, and goes, "You, me, let's go. Let's go. Let's do this."
yeah.
And it fits perfectly. Shaman.
Hybrid of Oracle and Witch. I had to look it up because I don't think I've ever seen anybody
Support.
run it. Yeah, I would say it gets fewer spells than the Oracle, but it does get all those nice Witch hexes.
And hexes are support. They're just support in a different direction.
Yeah, a lot of the hex abilities, I would say most of them are support oriented or versatility oriented rather than offensive. There are a few, of course, that are offensive, but
Yeah, they do damage, but like most of the hexes are designed towards debuffing the enemy
yeah,
so that your allies can hurt them more. And I count
Yes.
that as a support.
yeah, that's fair.
Because the way they work. It's not necessarily like, when I say debuff, like if they're causing sleep or causing a status effect, that's one thing. I count that as more offensive. But if they're doing like -4 AC or minus to their attack rolls or things of that nature, that's more support. Shifter is melee.
Yeah.
They're like a druid that gives up a lot of their spells, and in return they get a lot more melee combat.
Yeah, it's sort of your Circle of the Moon Druid equivalent for Pathfinder, I would say.
Yeah. Scald.
Ah, isn't that the Barbarian?
Yeah, it's the Barbarian. It's the Angry Bard.
The Angry Bard.
I want to put it in skills, but at the same time, it's like
I can't.
A lot of their abilities don't gear towards skills.
I can't put it in skills.
It,
It's only got 4 per level. It's got a slightly more restricted list than regular bards. You do get versatile performance, but you've got rage and damage reduction. If you are not in melee combat, your rage and damage reduction aren't gonna do shit.
I label it as a melee class.
Yes.
It just happens to do some support and some skill.
Yeah.
Slayer is a skill class.
I love the Slayer. It is a very interesting class.
I will say, though, I've had people argue with me on that one. Because some people have told me that's a melee class.
No.
And I'm like...
I mean, it will fuck you up. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah, no, it's got crazy amounts of damage output. And don't get me wrong, that's great. But the majority of its abilities are geared towards tracking the foe down, finding the foe, and then killing it.
Yeah, this is basically your hybrid rogue ranger, except that it's not the ranger bits that are working on like ranged combat. I mean, though I guess you can make a slayer that uses ranged combat. Yeah, your studied target I think can apply to ranged.
Oh yeah,
but you don't get like the fighting style for range. It will screw up the central target of its wrath in melee, but yeah, I would go skill. Because 6 per level, you've got a bonus to track.
What is it? Is
Slayer
that your PNC
talents.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, you got your tracking, you got your Slayer talents. I mean, most of its skills are designed around the idea of sneaking up on one particular asshole and ending his existence in
Like-
melee or range. But
Quite violently,
Yes.
in fact.
and Sorcerer, hey, offensive magic.
Yeah,
That was easy.
Sorcerer in Pathfinder is way more about offensive magic than it was in 5th Ed. A lot of the bloodlines are straight up, that thing must die. Or those things must die.
Yep.
Spiritualist.
He's gonna come mow it down and try and retail our garden bed for me tomorrow. Depending on weather. But he's looking at mowing everything down.
Oh, joy.
Yeah, with the brush hog. So, yay.
Love you.
Okay, so the spiritualist is a fusion of a mortal being and a single powerful spirit or phantom.
Sorry, it's still fun.
With a 6th level spellcasting progression.
Not a lot of skills.
No, this is a weird class.
I don't know what to label this damn thing as. Has a lot of detect undead, calm spirits, see invisibility.
Yeah. Damn, I honestly do not know. I don't see it as a melee or a defender. I don't see it as a range.
It's only got light armor, so it's not a defender. Because it's also not...
It can manifest a phantom to attack its enemies, so it can actually, at higher levels, manifest the spirit physically. So I guess that makes it sort of like the summoner, in a way.
So I guess that would be offensive magic?
Yes, it's weird. You're essentially creating a proxy to go beat on someone.
Let's see. Detect magic, chill object, oppose course, feather fall, inflict. Remove fear, mind link. Does that cure? As cure, the cure spells.
I mean, you could drop it in the support class because it's never going to be your primary melee threat, even if it manifests as spirit.
It has
But it could.
animate. Yeah, it has animate dead heroes. It does have a fair amount of support spells.
Okay, so yeah, we'll be happily dropping it into support.
Yeah, I go with support on Spiritualist. It's weird. Summoner, on the other hand, is more offensive magic.
Yeah.
Because it's got a lot more damage output, and
Yeah.
it just happens to have a big fuck off creature following it around.
Yeah.
Swashbuckler is melee.
Yes, it is. One of my favorites.
Same thing with Vampire Hunter.
I believe that's true. It's been a while since I've looked at Vampire Hunter.
Vampire Hunter is very much melee. Vigilante is skill.
Yes. Big fan of the Vigilante.
Yeah, it's a good one. I'd say Vigilante was built for DMs. It was not built for PCs.
Yeah, I told you that I used it in my last Pathfinder game and to great effect. But unless you're doing a campaign that centers on one geographical area, a lot of the Vigilante's abilities are not going to be super useful.
Yeah. It's very much the... Oh, boy.
Just me. Ignore it for now.
Okay. War Priest, melee.
I mean, yeah, that's basically the reskin of Cleric that shifts it way towards the fighter side.
Yeah, way, 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 way towards the fighter side. Oh my god.
Now, I mean, do they have decent defensive abilities? That would be the only other question I would wonder about.
It's okay at defense. It still wears heavy armor.
Okay.
It still has an okay amount of healing spells,
Yeah.
but it doesn't control the battlefield.
Okay.
Other than make things dead.
All right, we're down to the last two.
Which is support. I mentioned that
Yeah.
earlier.
The hexes definitely lean that way.
I wish you two would make a podcast. This is kind of our podcast, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the closest thing we do to a podcast, man. I don't know if I'll ever officially make a podcast of this, but I might just do that at some point.
Could be interesting.
Oh, yeah. Like take the recording of Tuesdays and just take the audio recording and put it as a podcast. I don't know what website I'd use. I don't know podcasting that well. Maybe I can ask my older brother. He used to do a Star Trek podcast.
Sure.
Called Priority One. There's a wizard. I think we labeled as
Welcome, traveler.
I mean, wizard can definitely fit your offensive magic or support roles.
Yep. By the way, Zathona, thank you for joining the tavern. Grab yourself a mug of ale, pull up a chair, and enjoy the tales we tell here. But yeah, this one took the longer one because there were just way more classes. Oh my god.
Yep.
But that's the upside of Pathfinder. Pathfinder has way more options for you.
Yes. I mean, look at the range category in Pathfinder and think about how different each of those is.
I wonder if this will let me do this. Can I? Oh, god damn it. Can I do this? Yeah, do this. Alright. See if I can do that. There we go. Those are the two different ones. 5th Ed is on the left. Pathfinder... Sorry. 5th Ed's on the left. Pathfinder's on the right. Alright? You can see that 5th Ed has way less base options.
Yeah. It's actually kind of strange to me that they haven't introduced more base classes. That seemed like, something that they might do. I guess did they introduce an actual Alchemist or anything for 5th edition yet?
No, Alchemist is a Artificer subclass.
Oh, but they do have the Artificer. That's right.
Yeah. See, Artificer isn't in here. If I were to put the Artificer anywhere, he is either skill or offensive magic or range. Okay. He's one of these three.
Yeah.
Because it depends on how you build him. If you go for the Armor Smith, you got melee.
I'm going to go take a soak.
Okay. If you go for the Eldritch Cannon guy, you got either offensive magic or range, depending on what energy beam is coming out of the damn thing.
Yep.
And if you go with Alchemist, you got skill or support.
Yeah.
It really depends on what you're aiming for.
Yep. But yeah, just look at the stark difference there. You have so many more options. For range, you've got 3 completely different classes that play completely differently. You've got skill classes that actually matter. I mean, 5e skills do matter, but because of the flattened curve where they wanted to put an upper and lower bound on things, even if you're not proficient in a skill, you can generally rely on somebody in your party to make the roll.
Yeah, and they don't have to be a skill specialist.
Right.
And that really is the big thing. You got 2 defenders in 5e. You could argue for 4. You could argue for 4 defenders in 5e at most.
Mm-hmm.
Where in Pathfinder you have dedicated 3. And those dedicated 3 are damn good at it.
Yeah.
Though Barbarian you could also do for a defender if you went with the right archetype.
Yeah.
Same with War Priest. But War Priest isn't going to be great at it. Same with Monk as well.
And I do want to give a little credit where credit is due. 5e's got its class paths, and Pathfinder has its archetypes that really will flavor things and shift things around. So they both have a decent amount of variety, but Pathfinder just has a whole different approach that I appreciate.
Yeah, at the very minimum, Pathfinder has every class has at least, with the exception of some of the weirder classes,
Yes.
10 archetypes for each class.
Yeah.
At minimum. The weirder ones, not so much. For 5e, most of these classes have at least 7 subclasses.
Yeah.
All right? At minimum. Which means some of these are drastically different. But the thing is, some of the subclasses in 5e are really bad. Like, we were making fun of Ranger earlier.
Yeah.
For good reason. Like, up until Tasha's Cauldron of Everything came out, Rangers were complete shit. And that was sad. That really was.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, one guy named Joe Cat, like, he used to make his crap guide to D&D. He basically started his video for Ranger as, like, just play a fighter with a bow. It's much better.
Yeah.
And that's not wrong. Though I will say that the addition of Warlock was kind of an interesting idea. It adds so many role-playing options that I love.
Yep.
The Patron is something cool. I kind of do the same thing with Witch in Pathfinder.
Yeah, or Magus, if you happen to be thinking about like the Hexblade type, is like I said, similar.
Yeah. The Cornbread. All right, brother, I'm heading out. All right, Cornbread, you have a great night. You chill out. And hopefully you have a nice, relaxing evening, my friend. Oh, something settled in my back hall and scared the shit out of me.
Well, at least it didn't sound like a face hugger.
Yeah. But also, I feel like Pathfinder has more options for what you're looking for, because I've run into this with 5e, where someone has basically gone, I can't quite find the class I want to play.
Yeah.
Like the idea I have for my character just doesn't fit what exists in 5e. And they're trying to make it work, and I've had people message me to help them build their characters. I've been paid to build characters twice now.
Yeah.
Twice. Once was for an evil paladin that was a villain for a DM, and the other one was for a barbarian. that they wanted to be able to summon a weapon out of nowhere without having to rely on a magical item.
Yeah.
Funny enough, both involved Warlock. Which was like, okay. Hey,
Yep.
It's just how the cookie crumbled. Warlock makes an excellent class for multi-classing. It really does. Oh no, we don't want AP to have facehugger ideas. I will say 5e did come up with some great ideas for some of the classes, like removing the alignment restrictions of the classes. Love that idea. More of that. You mentioned that earlier too, Gamera. Hey, 15 months on Gamera. Woo! Thanks, man.
Just realized that the Prime sub was up again.
Hey, I appreciate that, dude. Have fun with all the emotes and no ads.
But yeah,
ads.
I mean, 5th edition's approach is better, I think, for people learning the game. One of the complaints that a couple of my players have had about Pathfinder is the number of options is overwhelming, and I get that. You know, you can look at this and go, "Holy shit, how many classes?" And definitely there is an advantage in having a pared down set of options. But for those people who are looking for, you know, I've got this specific idea in my head of what this character should be, Pathfinder's just got more tools in the toolbox.
Yeah. My recommendation has always been, for most people, and this was before 5th Ed came out, 4th Ed was good about it too. And I hate saying that, but now 5th Ed's much better. 5th Ed's good for new people. Pathfinder's good for experienced people.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a new person surrounded by experienced people, Pathfinder's still an okay option.
Yes.
Especially you have like 1 or 2 experienced people that are willing to take the new person under their wing and say, we'll help you out, we'll teach you the game, things of that nature. As long as they don't build the character for them and don't play the character for them.
Yep. That Barbarian Oracle that I mentioned from my Pathfinder game, this was her first time playing a role-playing game.
Yeah. We had a gentleman named Chris. And he loved playing Pathfinder. He said he played Pathfinder plenty of times. I'm like, okay, so your experience, that's good. Turned out he played in Pathfinder Society, which is a giant organization where you can play Pathfinder and you meet people and so on and so forth. And I don't diss Pathfinder Society entirely, but he didn't know how to build his character. His boyfriend built his character for him. And he didn't know how to play it very well. And that tended to be a habit with him. Was his boyfriend would always min-max Chris's character for him and give him advice on how to play it and then send Chris to my game.
Yeah, that's just not workable.
And I'm like, no. That's why one of the reasons why I instituted a rule of you have to build your own character. So that way you know where everything is. So that way you don't have like a feat that is like, what does this feat do? Oh, I don't remember. It's like, then why did you take it?
Yeah.
Like, that annoyed me to no end. And I know that caused me some issues back when I was in Pathfinder Society. Because I played in their Pathfinder Society, Starfinder Society games. And I would see them, both Chris and his boyfriend Alex, playing. And I just wanted to bang my head on the table. Because it was just like, Chris didn't know what he was doing. Alex would constantly min-max.
Right.
Like,
and if they're at the same table, I bet you have a lot of Alex basically, oh, you should do this, or this is what you need to do this turn.
Alex did what was called the general behavior. And that annoys me to no end because he did that with most of the players at the table. Like, I'm honestly surprised, because we have that mutual friend, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised Eric never mentioned that to you. The few times he went to Pathfinder Society.
No, it hasn't come up.
Yeah, like, Alex did it all the time. And it was just like, because Alex tried telling me what to do. Alex tried telling Eric what to do. And I'm like, I'm sitting here going, Gamera has told me about Eric. And that Eric is experienced.
Yes.
So, why is this Yahoo here telling an experienced player how to play his character?
Yeah, I see a lot of that with some groups that I've been in where it's basically just like, dude, this person clearly has no investment in what they've created at your behest. You're just essentially running a second character. Or you have the situation where this person thinks they know the game better than everyone else, so they will give unwanted advice on the construction of characters to people who know what they want to build. And I realize we're past 9 o'clock now, so I'll make this brief. But
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Matt and I were in a game with a local GM, and that GM, he's known me for a long time. He didn't mess with me about my build. He's known another player in there for a long time. He didn't mess with me about my build, but he didn't know Matt. And he was
so
constantly trying to get Matt to build his character a certain way. He was so, your character's going to be underpowered. You're going to get creamed. You really need to. Matt built one of the most optimized characters and optimized in an unexpected way that we had in that game. And I was really impressed. And just the GM kind of browbeating him to like, no, you need to do it this way. It's just so frustrating. It's just like, don't do that. If someone asks for help, give them help.
Yeah, but otherwise, shut the fuck up and let them build their character.
Yes. I mean, it's even okay to ask if they need help. You can be proactive. Say, hey, do you want any help or advice on that? And if they say no, assume that they've got it.
Yeah, I don't understand the need for people to do that. Like, I will look at someone and go, would you like me to offer some advice?
Yeah.
That's usually how I word it. It's like, I look at them and go, you seem to be struggling. Can I offer you some advice? And they will either say yay or nay. It's one or the other. And if they say nay, then I'm like, okay, I'll leave you be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to push this. If you need the help, by all means, I will help.
Absolutely.
And it's just like, good Lord. Like, how hard is it to literally ask for consent to help someone?
Yeah.
It hurts my brain. It really does. I've just... Oh my God. AP's like, Ruby, you're a great DM. I appreciate the help you gave me, which was a lot. AP, I tried. I tried doing my best. I tried, offering the help I could. And I'm sorry that, the game just didn't work out. That happens. And by all means, that's it. It happens. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes times don't work out. Sometimes games, just people don't feel it. And that's okay.
Yep.
Like, I remember, like, I think it was Melissa that was, like, really upset. And she was like, at first, and she was like, are you upset that I'm going to be leaving the game? And I'm like, no. You're just not feeling it. And that's okay.
Absolutely.
It's A-okay if you need to leave. I'm not holding a gun to your head and saying you must play this game. Like, there's nothing wrong with this. Like, I don't understand why more people aren't like that.
Yeah.
It hurts me sometimes. Because, like, Gamera, you know this phrase I say all the time, which is life comes before game.
Mm-hmm.
I say it all the time. And it's something that I wish more people understood and more people did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's lost on some people.
Yeah, and you know, everybody in this hobby, you know, you want to game, you want to be there as a player, you want to be there as a GM. As a GM, you want players to be there, but you can't pressure people to be there if you know they've got other stuff going on that they need to take care of. If they're just not feeling that game, you know, we maybe next week we should talk about the importance of session zeros and what we cover in session zeros. But you know, hash out some stuff, make sure everybody's on board. I recently kicked off a Call of Cthulhu game, and a couple of my regulars, I asked if they wanted to be in, and they said they really didn't think that they wanted to right now. I said, that's fine. I've got some other people that I can ask to be in there. If you change your mind, I'll try to find you a seat later, but you know what? You're not feeling it? That's fine.
You know what? That's what we'll do. Next week, we will definitely talk about the importance of Session 0, what you talk about in Session 0, and not just that, but also how you invite new players and how to accept graciously a no.
Yes.
All right? Like how you accept a no. Because that is something that some people need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Is basically someone just does not want to join your game. How do you accept that? Because that is so big of a deal. Oh, and no, one last one I want to definitely cover because I've experienced this in my games.
Okay.
How to deal with a problematic player who's making other people at the table uncomfortable.
Yes.
That has to get covered at some point. I would prefer to do that in the same as Session 0.
Yeah.
Because that can kind of be overarching involved. Because I have a story where I had a problematic player who made everyone uncomfortable and caused a game to literally implode.
Yeah, I think I know the one, but...
Yeah, oh, you know him.
Yeah.
Oh, you know him real well. Psychotic bastard.
Yeah.
But let us go to the raid time because we're going to do that. So let me find my damn messages. If you are a follower, by all means, please use the following message. That'll be appreciated. If you are a subscriber, please use the following message. By the way, please stick around for the raid because you get a ton of critical roles, and you can use those critical roles to help you select the next Wildcard Wednesday game, which, by the way, tomorrow's is Dragon Age. Because we're going to continue the adventures of this stabby woman. And there's also the 50,000 critical role thing where you get your own audio-visual entry, much like, you know, CandidGamera's or AP, or AP's favorite thing, Summon the Guards. Like, there's Gamera's example right there. Trying to aim my hands. You know, I'm going to learn to flip my camera at some point. So oh, excuse me. I'm going to learn to flip my camera so that way my left is left and my right is right on the camera. So that way I'm not like trying to adjust.
Yeah.
It might make my life a little easier. So make sure you're taking care of yourselves both mentally and physically. That's very important. If you need help, go out and find it. There are plenty of resources out there to get that help, all right? And it's important you look for it, all right? But if you need someone to talk to in the community, you can join the Discord. You can message someone in the community. We will be here. We will at least try to point you in the right direction, all right? We may not be professionals, but we'll at least get you on the right path, hopefully. Yep. So there's the Discord link. And if you want to learn more about D&D and Pathfinder and all kinds of tabletop stuff, that also is on the Discord. We are more than happy to answer questions there all the damn time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're constantly doing that. So there is that. So the person we are going to raid, if they're still... Yep. Is called Magia XO. She's playing Destiny 2. It's someone from the Network Nation who has been helping me out a lot recently. So I am going to try to pay it back to them. Or in this case, pay it forward. Because this person didn't visit me, but I'm visiting them, and they're trying to grow as a channel. So
Right on.
let's go show her some love. She's playing Destiny 2. She's probably fighting some sort of horrifying darkness beast in the name of the light. So let's go forth. I will see you all tomorrow for Wildcard Wednesday, where I'll be playing Dragon Age. So, toodles.